If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
Welcome to MINDSHOCK. Today's topic is a little bit of a departure from the normal topics that MINDSHOCK covers, but it was requested, so I'll have a logical crack at it. Not crack addict, crack at it. It is, of course, the gender pronoun debate. Some people loop this in with the trans debate and all of these issues. I don't know why it has become all politicized and it can't be discussed outside of political affiliation, but I will attempt to do so. And hopefully the listeners will get something out of it. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Make sure your device allows those notifications to come through. If you like this particular podcast, share it across social media platforms and hit the like button. Questions, comments, thoughts, theories, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings, insults of any kind, leave them in the comment section. And you could check us out on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Patreon. Patrons, of course, do get priority for case and topic requests, as well as co-podcaster requests. I know JR is a favorite of many. Okay, so the first thing that needs to be addressed are definitions and what it all means, and the logical fallacies and false dichotomies and hallucinations and delusions brought forth as a result of word definitions, regardless of which side of this so-called debate you're on. But let's say a cat owner wants their cat to be called a dog. Now, we're not talking about the name of the cat or dog. So let's say her cat is named Snowball from The Simpsons, but they want you to view the cat as a dog, but a cat is not a dog. So here is the jump. Here's where the problem lies. If you refuse to call the cat a dog or regard the cat as a dog, does that mean you're against cats, or does that mean you're against dogs? Personally, I'm an animal lover, and I believe in animal rights to the fullest extent that one can do so. I don't want anybody harming cats or dogs. I think all animals of all species should enjoy the right to live without being tortured and killed. That's just my opinion. Obviously, other people have different opinions, and that's independent of the food chain. I mean, everybody's got to do what they got to do to survive, so if a cat needs to kill a bird and eat it to survive, that's what it's got to do. I'm not against birds. I'm not against cats. I'm for both those species. So if someone refuses to call a man a woman or a woman a man, or refuses to view the gender definition as defined by a dictionary, or at least dictionary up until modern times, up until the past few years of insanity. See, here's where the hypocrisy comes in, because if gender is a social construct and it's not real, so that means someone demanding to be viewed as a woman. If being a woman is a construct, who are they to decide what someone else's view of a woman is? Because if we're going to agree with them and say that gender is a social construct and it exists in the mind of the observer, so to speak, based on their personal views, isn't that intolerant of another person's personal views? Like, let's forget scientific definitions. Let's throw those out the window for a moment. Let's get all emotional. Let's get all about our feelings. So if someone feels that a gender definition as defined by a dictionary or by science, not regardless of whether that's true or not, but that's the way they feel it should be, that in their brain, why are certain people so intolerant of that they want to force other people to conform to their definition? That's what's bizarre, because if we're pretending objective, empirically verifiable definitions don't exist, which, let's do that. I mean, I have no problem with doing that to figure all this out. So then what makes one person's subjective definition trump another person's subjective definition? And wouldn't it be intolerant, regardless of which side you're on, wouldn't it be intolerant to demand that everybody view something like gender or whatever? What if someone views blonde hair as actually brunette? If they identify as a brunette, even if they're blonde, you have to conform to their definition of hair color, because hair color could be a social construct as well. Who's to say it's not? Who's to say it's not? Why are people so intolerant of a view that hair color could be a social construct? I mean, there's actually some people think blondes are dumb or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of associations you can draw to actually make a case for hair color being a social construct. And if everything is a social construct and nothing can be objective or empirically verifiable, what is with the intolerance of people who have opposing viewpoints? It just the hypocrisy there is an issue. It's an issue because if we agree that it's all social constructs, which again, I'm not debating that in this podcast. I am not picking a side on whether it's a social construct or not. I'm actually saying let's say it is. Let's just for the sake of argument, let's all agree just for this purpose that it is a social construct. Who's to say which society or which individuals can demand others conform to their own interpretations and subjective viewpoints? Because if all subjective viewpoints are equal and you don't want to demean or diminish one viewpoint over another, what is with this intolerance of people who have opposing viewpoints? That's what doesn't really make a lot of sense. Or we could just use objective, empirically verifiable definitions and it'll all make sense. So, and the other issue is, of course, this false equivalency and this extreme straw manning in pretending that people that don't agree with a viewpoint are against something. Like if somebody's not willing to call a cat or a dog a cat based on not only biological definitions, but also whatever, let's call them socially constructed definition of what is a cat, what is a dog. If that particular individual thinks that in their own socially constructed definition, a cat happens to be the same as the scientific definition, they don't care about it being scientific. It's just their own personal viewpoint just happens to align that way. Other people are going to be intolerant and demand them to call that cat a dog or a dog a cat. And even if that, and here's the main issue is someone refusing to do so is not against either species necessarily. I mean, they could be, but it's not an automatic thing. So, and I haven't actually heard that argued. I haven't seen anybody who's refusing to call a biological man a woman or vice versa. I haven't seen them against anybody or demanding they be treated any different than any other human being. We're all humans on this earth, right? So I think everybody, to a certain extent, is a human rights activist. I mean, that's what it seems like. Most people. Obviously, there are small minorities that do breed hate and all of these things, which is such a vast minority. But both political sides like to pretend that it's a lot bigger group than it is for their own agendas. Again, this is not really a political podcast. I was asked to logically dissect the pronoun issues in this so-called debate, but that's what seems hypocritical about all this, because the people demanding that the whole world conform to their personal viewpoint, they're so hypocritical and intolerant of the people who have their own viewpoints that are the opposite. So they're not allowed to have theirs. It's just really, really bizarre. And even if you say they're not allowed to have theirs, that doesn't mean they're against anybody. That's really weird. I mean, I don't know. This isn't my area of expertise, but I really haven't I have watched some debates on the matter. I haven't seen anybody calling for trans people to be treated less than any other human. It's really weird. So the argument that everybody must conform, and if you don't, you're somehow are against the rights of this individual because they have their own subjective viewpoint of what gender is. It's really weird. It's really bizarre. I'm of the mindset live and let live. Everybody should do whatever they believe is right for themselves. So if a biological man views himself as a woman, I'm not telling him not to. And I don't think anybody else is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's people out there. But why hypocritically demand that everybody else adhere to their own viewpoint? What if somebody doesn't believe gender is a social construct? Why are so many people that are arguing this topic, they're so intolerant of a more traditional viewpoint? Shouldn't we be tolerant of all viewpoints, including traditional viewpoints? Because isn't that the whole point of tolerance and inclusivity of all, so that all mankind can be happy and prosper? And I think there's a fundamental lack of understanding in how the law works too, because what discrimination is there against people who believe gender is a social construct? I mean, people get discriminated against for a million different reasons. So sometimes people just don't like other people. It's not because of skin color, hair color, eye color, sneaker brand preference, or gender pronoun belief systems. It's because they just don't like the person, and if they're not a cool person, that's fine. But pretending this is some kind of issue that needs to be legislated, as if there's not enough other stuff going on, it's really, really bizarre. But I guess people that are just hopelessly indoctrinated into the cult of state and authority worship, they always cry for the nanny state to do stuff. Obviously, there's a ton of corruption. If anybody listens to the MindShock podcast, particularly MindShock True Crime, we cover a lot of wrongful conviction cases, so I am not advocating for the establishment in any way, in any form. There's a ton of corruption. But the law as written, all men are created equal. And as such, have equal rights under the law. There are no exclusions, so there's no real institutional issue. The issue is with particular corrupt or criminal individuals, intolerant individuals acting outside the law, which has always been the issue. And I don't know why that's so difficult for some people to understand, but those particular individuals who are breaking laws, they need to be identified and prosecuted. Adding a million more laws that these types of people aren't going to follow anyway. I mean, how is that really going to change anything? It's really bizarre. But again, just to round this out on the topic of just gender being a social construct, this is not, I wasn't addressing whether that's true or not, but if that's true, then there shouldn't be any hypocrisy in that. So all viewpoints should be tolerated, and nobody is automatically calling for less rights for people just because they have a different viewpoint. I don't know how that got hallucinated into part of the conversation to be politically debated, which is often debated. I really don't know how that happened. People can chime in on their own thoughts, theories, but personally, I advocate for all, including people who identify. I mean, you could identify as a dinosaur. That's cool if that makes you happy and that's what you want to do. I'm not against that in any way, but pretending everybody else has to agree with your subjective definitions, that's where the issue is for a lot of people. Because if you believe in subjective definitions, who are you to tell someone else what they're allowed to have as their own subjective definitions? So either we have subjective definitions or we don't. Either way, there's some major logical issues here for the people advocating everyone else conform to their own view of reality. No one's saying they're not allowed. At least I haven't heard anybody saying that they weren't allowed to have their own view or live the way they want, because obviously everybody should be able to do that. If you're not hurting anybody, do whatever you want to do, have whatever beliefs you want to have. I mean, that's perfectly cool. I haven't heard anybody argue against it, and in this conversation, it seems like that's the target, as if people are arguing against that. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed another logical analysis of a topic that is that for some reason is contested greatly. I don't know why. This is 2020. Humans supposedly have reached a certain stage of civilization, but perhaps not. Perhaps we've been experiencing a downward trend in the past decade. Who knows? Again, questions, comments, thoughts, theories, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings. Leave them in the comments section. If you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notification. Make sure your device allows those notifications to come through. You can check us out. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case, topic, logical analyses, co-podcaster requests. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.